get some of my accoutrements as the lay representative of the annual conference. First, you need to know who I am. I think everybody can see that. Second, although I am not given to flag waving, we were all given these at the conference, and some people, not me included, became very enthusiastic when we'd sing a hymn and wave the flag back and forth. And finally, I sort of got into it, and I got a kick out of it, rejoicing with the others. If you go to the annual conference, you'll get a flag too. It is always personally fulfilling for me to attend the annual conference. This year was no exception, and I came away especially filled with the message that I have heard. I hope that I can convey some of that same fulfillment to each of you. Since I've condensed 2 days of conferencing and 12 pages of notes into about 15 minutes for today, at times it may seem a little choppy. This New Jersey conference had the greatest number of attendees in any year. The conference churches have the most culturally diverse population anywhere in the United States, as New Jersey has the most culturally diverse population. Because of this, the conference is developing a 7-year plan on cross-cultural, cross-racial considerations and responses. Our beloved Sam Chung retired this year, but I was unable to find him when searching for him after his stage appearance. Reverend Blair Gould, who some of you may remember as a little tyke in this church, said hello to everybody who remembers him. And Todd Laddick was ordained as an elder of the church. Mike and I were talking a little bit before service, and I said, Mike, I like your black shirt. I was looking for my dress black shirt today, and I couldn't find it. I was going to wear a black shirt rather than a white shirt. And Mike said, well, you know, the white shirt, you know, there's a little elevation to the white shirt, but I got to tell you, deacons have these beautiful black flowing robes, you know, and I should have worn a black shirt today. Not that I'm a deacon of the church, but let's see, Pastor Todd was ordained as an elder of the church. As a humorous aside, I was sitting in my usual place in the hearing impaired section when Pastor Todd came running up and told me that I would be walking Pastor Nancy down the aisle when the new appointments were being announced. When I asked him when that would be, he replied, right now. And at that point, Pastor Nancy and I had not even met. He showed me where she was sitting, and we introduced ourselves, Pastor Todd, then went running off. With Pastor Nancy, we have another opportunity to learn how to do things differently. Let's take advantage of that and not be stuck in our we've always done it this way attitude. I can remember back when Larry Grasher was here. And, you know, Larry Grasher had a special way of doing things. And those of us who knew Larry were sorry to see him leave, and we got a new minister. And that new minister did things differently than Larry did. And I'm sure a few of us, including me, said, hey, that person's not like Larry Grasher. And then they left, and another person came along. And I guess we didn't like that person some of the time either. They talked about homosexuality, and literally half the church left because they said that homosexuality was genetically based and not necessarily life choice. And so we didn't like some of the things that that pastor did either. And then another pastor came along, and they did things a little bit differently too. And we said, wait a minute, this isn't like the old guy. We want the old service back again. We don't want this new service. But finally, we adjusted to their way of doing things. And then, lo and behold, Pastor Laddick came along. And he had people come to the altar at the beginning of the service. And people said, oh no, Methodists don't do altar calls. Well, I'm here to tell you that Methodists do altar calls. But anyway, Methodists don't do altar calls. When are we going up to the altar and praying at the beginning of the service? And so Pastor Todd would say, this is not an altar call. And I would say, this is not an altar call. This is a call to the altar. So that we would get away from the idea that you were somehow dedicating your life to God by coming to the altar. And then Pastor Nancy comes along and saw her God. Doesn't she do things differently? She doesn't say, come down here at the beginning of the service. She says, well, I'm praying. If you want to, you can join me at the altar. And we said, oh, well, we like the old way of doing things. We wanted to go down to the altar at the beginning of the service, not when you're praying. We wanted to have silent prayer at the beginning of the service. And guess what? We're going to adjust to a new way of doing things. Rejoice. Though the fig tree should not blossom, and there be no fruit on the vines, though the yield of the olive should fail, and the fruit fields produce no food, though the flock should be cut off from the fold, and there be no cattle in the stalls, yet I will exalt in the Lord, and I will rejoice in the God of my salvation. The Lord is my strength, and again I say, rejoice. Thus the theme of this year's conference was set. The opening of the conference is filled with music and singing led by the praise band, and this continued throughout our times together. I do wish that the music was printed along with the words of the songs so that we could also learn and sing them here. Bishop Scholl, in his opening message, spoke of the nature of real joy. Not that transient happiness that occurs when things change on the outside, but the real joy when our life attitudes change inside. Real joy is affirmed because we have hope through God. Hope that doesn't disappoint, and we always hope because of the indwelling Holy Spirit, or God, within us. Or as James said in part in the first chapter of his letter to the 12 tribes, consider it all joy when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance, and let endurance have its perfect result, that you may be perfect and competent, lacking nothing. Bishop Scholl was an engaging speaker who set the tone for this year's Greater New Jersey Annual Conference. He speaks without notes and is focused, serious, and at times humorous when the topic calls for it. Later in the conference, he spoke of those things which are troubling the Methodist Conference, such things as the closing of some of our churches, and as John and Ann Milacrane can attest, Johnson Church being one of them. Johnsonburg has gotten so small that it no longer supports itself with the numbers attending. Both recently conducted that Sunday morning service, as they no longer have a minister. He also spoke on the issue of homosexuality, which is an emotionally disrupting life in the life of the Methodist Conference throughout the United States. The bishop affirmed that while he needs to accept the Methodist discipline, he would at no time speak negatively about our homosexual brothers and sisters, and welcomes them as children of God, working to change attitudes and movement toward inclusion. We are also encouraged, since the Council of Bishops will be considering the inclusion of gender justice at the conference next year. Racial justice has already been included in the Constitution, but gender justice has somehow been left out. Sometimes the bureaucracy of the church moves much too slowly, as the issues of homosexuality and gender have been bouncing around within the church for many years. If Christ had been surrounded by the same bureaucracy, he would have never completed completed his mission on earth, recognizing, of course, that the Pharisees were the bureaucracy of that day. The bishop also spoke of the opening of new churches and the growth of local missions. During the conference, we were treated to the recognition of various mission efforts in local churches, such as the opening of a thrift shop, and watching a video titled, "Rise Against Hunger." I wonder why in all the years that I have been attending this church, we never sought recognition for our variety of mission efforts. And over those years, we have had many. One of the more important developments in the conference is the comprehensive lay leadership program. Throughout New Jersey, the dependence on lay servanthood is growing, and as always, I would encourage each of you to pursue classes on servanthood, whether or not you ever want to be a lay speaker or stand up here in any capacity. We are indeed fortunate to have Bishop Scholl as our spiritual leader. Classism, racism, xenophobia, sexism in our world, in our communities, and in our churches. God has called us to be a redemptive force in the world. We are called to be disciples. We are called to be faithful, hopeful, and to work for justice. Our question is, how do we achieve this in our own congregation, in the community around us? It was pointed out that the established churches, and we've been established for many years, as you know, have lost sight of the changing community needs. When do we reestablish our understanding and contact with the surrounding community? If only in part, we will experience lasting joy. Joy, the experience that comes back after Easter Sunday, when everybody shows up. Our experience of the risen Christ, that joy that is sustained by hope. God's grace prevails. Rejoice for all that God is doing for us. Quoting the bishop, I will be the bishop of the whole church, Orthodox and those in the middle. We can grow together, not happiness in uniformity, but joy in diversity. As Christians, we don't need one inspirational moment after another to remain faithful. As much as I enjoy and am blessed by attending the annual conference, I would be exhausted if I were to go every weekend. However, to be faithful and fruitful, we do need to pray and study what we believe in. And to be a faithful church, we do need the leadership of both our pastor and the laity. In addition, we need a new prescription for making disciples of Christ. When we are told to go into the world showing our love, this is not a kumbaya kind of love. We all know the acts of Jesus, the parable of the Good Samaritan, the contact that Jesus had with the woman at the well, and the woman who was told to go and sin no more. Just a few examples of the deepest kind of love. New Jersey continues to be one of the most segregated states, and that is reflected in our schools. Our population is segregated by both poverty and race, and is more segregated than states south of the Mason-Dixon line. Our charter schools tend to be even more segregated because of attendance zones. As a result, retired New Jersey Supreme Court Justice Stein is heading up a group, including the conference, to change this and encourages us to defy Governor Christie and welcome immigrants rather than shutting our doors to them. So then, how do we wrap this up? Christianity involves spiritual growth on both the inside and the outside. Our conference, meaning us, is confronting the successes and problems of our churches and state. We have a variety of plans. The conference, the main conference, has a variety of plans in place to help congregation grow. This depends on us. As churches close, not only because of the lack of money, and we have plenty of money, but for the lack of attendance. And sometimes we don't have enough in attendance to keep the doors of this church open. If we love our church and want to worship here, then we need to support it by our regular attendance and our offerings. Individually, we need to seek that internal joy so that we can rejoice in all things. We need to celebrate our diversity and pray for our unity. And finally, we need to live each day knowing that our holy God, holy, loves us. After the conference, I started wondering what was a simple way of increasing our commitment to the few things that we already do. How do we become our commitment to Christ and to being a Christian? Well, the first thing that came to mind was a continuing commitment to prayer and Bible study. And no, I am not suggesting that we come here for prayer meetings and Bible study. I've developed a simple sign-up sheet. For those of us who will obligate to praying and Bible study for at least 30 minutes a day, the time that it takes to wash our hands and brush our teeth in the morning, just 30 minutes a day. If you would like to participate in this, the sign-up sheet will be in the fellowship bulletin board. And all the people of God said, rejoice. Thank you. Well, since I don't